Every little girl dreams about her wedding day. I know I did. I dreamed about the dress, the music, the flowers, the look on my husband's face when I walked down the aisle. I dreamed of that magic moment where everything in your life finally makes sense, where all the pain, all the heartbreak, all the lessons lead to one beautiful forever. And when Marcus asked me to marry him, I thought my dream had finally come true. He was charming, he was steady, he made me feel like I wasn't alone anymore. He wasn't perfect, no man is, but he was mine. At least, I thought he was. On the morning of our wedding, I was nervous but happy. My girls were in the room with me, champagne glasses in hand, music playing, dresses hanging. My veil was laid out on the chair, my bouquet sat by the window, catching the morning sun. It felt like a movie. Until my phone buzzed, it was a simple notification. Final guest list updated. At first I smiled, thinking I'd skim through and see all the names of people who loved me, people who came to celebrate me. But as my eyes ran down the screen, my breath caught in my throat. Right there, nestled between my aunt's name and my maid of honors, was hers. Kendra Johnson, his ex, his baby mama, and just like that, my fairy tale cracked. I stared at that name for what felt like forever. Maybe I was reading it wrong, maybe it was some other Kendra, maybe it was a mistake, but it wasn't. I felt my stomach twist, my chest tighten, my hands shake. She was invited to my wedding. And Marcus hadn't said a word to me. I felt like a fool, dressed in white, ready to walk into a life I didn't even know the whole truth about. I marched out of that room, veil in hand, almost tripping over the fabric of my own dress. And there he was, Marcus, laughing with his groomsmen, like the world was perfect. I pulled him aside, my voice shaking, my heart pounding, and I asked him why. Why was her name on our guest list? Why did I have to find out this way? And do you know what he said? He looked me in the eye, calm as ever, and said, "She's the mother of my child. She deserves to be here." Deserves, like this day was hers too, like my happiness had to be shared. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tear off that dress and run. Instead, I just stood there, tears burning behind my eyes, realizing the man I thought would protect my heart didn't even think I was worth the truth. Respect would have been telling me. Respect would have been choosing me above anyone else. But respect, that day, was nowhere to be found. The ceremony started anyway. The music played, the guests smiled, but all I could see was her walking in. She was beautiful, confident, holding their little boy's hand. Every head turned. Some whispered, some smiled knowingly. And me? I froze. My veil suddenly felt like a mask, hiding the storm behind my eyes. She walked past me and gave me a polite smile, even told me I looked beautiful. And I managed to whisper a thank you, even though inside I was screaming. Because she wasn't here because of me. She was here because of him. The night went on. Dinner was served. Laughter filled the room. But every time I looked up, there she was, sitting across from me like an uninvited shadow. We barely spoke, but the silence between us said everything. She knew it. I knew it. And Marcus, he pretended not to see. He thought if he smiled enough, if he kept the drinks flowing, it would all go away. But it didn't. It sat between us like a wall, and with every passing moment, the wall grew taller. Then came the speeches. The DJ handed Marcus the microphone. I held my breath, praying he would use that moment to make it right, to finally look at me, to remind me why I said yes, to show me I was his choice. But when he spoke, he didn't talk to me. He talked to them. He talked about family, about unity, about blending past, present, and future into one. He talked like this was some reunion, not a wedding, and with every word, I felt myself shrinking, disappearing into the background of my own story. I wasn't his bride anymore. I was just another guest at a party I never asked for. I couldn't take it. I stood up, my chair scraping the floor, and the room fell silent. I told him the truth in front of everyone. I told him he hadn't just invited her. He'd invited doubt, betrayal, and every reason I had to wonder if I was ever really enough. Gasps filled the room. Whispers followed me as I walked out, veil dragging behind me. And then the rain came. I stood outside in the storm, my dress soaked, my mascara running, and for the first time that day, I could breathe. The sky cried with me, thunder rumbling like my heart. And then I felt his hand on my arm, Marcus, drenched, desperate, begging me not to leave. He swore he loved me. He swore none of it mattered. But love without respect is nothing but a word, a hollow word. And standing there in the rain, I finally understood that some weddings don't end with I do. Some end with goodbye. I slipped the ring from my finger, placed it in his hand, and walked away. No bouquet, no cake, no first dance. Just me, a dress clinging to my skin, and the truth I couldn't ignore. And now, I ask you, the way I ask myself every night, if it were you standing in my shoes, would you still marry him? You know what hurts the most? It wasn't even her. It wasn't the fact that she came, or even that she smiled like she belonged. What broke me was him, the man I trusted with my whole heart, the man who got down on one knee and promised me forever, the man who told me I was his everything, but on the most important day of my life, I learned I was just an option. He said he loved me, and I believed him. I believed every word, every kiss, every late-night conversation about our future. But love without action, love without honesty, love without respect, what is that? It's just a fairy tale painted over a lie. And I think back to the beginning, when I first met Marcus. He was so smooth, so confident. He had a way of making a room bend toward him, of making you feel like you were the only one who mattered. He used to text me good morning every day. He used to talk about how he wanted a family, how he wanted stability. He told me about his son, and I admired him for being a father. I thought it showed responsibility, maturity. I didn't judge him for his past, because we all have one. I thought what mattered was the future we could build together. He told me I was different, that I wasn't like anyone else. And maybe that was the first lie I let myself believe. Our relationship wasn't perfect, but whose is? There were moments when I questioned things. How often he mentioned his son's mother. How quickly he would defend her if anyone said something negative. I told myself it was maturity, co-parenting, just him doing what a good man should do. But deep down, I always wondered if I would ever truly come first. If I would ever be enough. And on my wedding day, I got my answer. I think about the way my mama looked at me that morning, her eyes full of tears, telling me how proud she was. She said I deserved this day. She said I deserved happiness. And when I saw that name on the guest list, I felt like I had already failed her. How was I supposed to walk down the aisle knowing my heart was already breaking? How was I supposed to smile for pictures that would live forever when I couldn't even look at him without questioning everything? But I did it. I walked down that aisle. My father's arm was steady, my veil covered my face, and everyone stood and clapped like we were a fairy tale come to life. They didn't see the truth. They didn't see the storm in my chest. They didn't see that I was walking not into forever, but into doubt. I remember locking eyes with Marcus. He smiled, wide and proud, like nothing was wrong, and I hated him for it. I hated how easy it was for him to look at me like I was the only one, when deep down he knew he'd already betrayed me. He said his vows, and they were beautiful, too beautiful, the kind of words that would make anyone cry. But all I could think was, how do you say all that to me while making room for her? And when it was my turn to speak, my voice shook. I stumbled through my vows, my hands trembling, tears threatening to spill. People thought it was nerves. They thought it was just the emotion of the moment. But it wasn't. It was grief. I was grieving the love I thought I had, grieving the trust I thought I could hold on to. When they pronounced us husband and wife, everyone cheered. We kissed, and the cameras flashed, but that kiss felt hollow. I knew then that I wasn't kissing a man who chose me fully. I was kissing a man who wanted to keep both worlds, who wanted me as his bride and her as his shadow. The reception was worse. Smiles plastered on our faces for photos, laughter forced at the right moments. But my heart was heavy. When she walked in, all eyes followed her. Some people whispered, others pretended not to notice. But I noticed. I noticed how Marcus's eyes softened when he looked at their son. I noticed how he nodded at her across the room, a silent communication that still tied them together. And I noticed how small I felt in a dress that was supposed to make me shine. Dinner was unbearable. Sitting across from her, pretending to be civil, pretending that her presence didn't stab me over and over again. She told me I looked beautiful. I smiled and thanked her, but inside I thought, beautiful for who? For a man who couldn't put me first? For a marriage that already felt broken? And then Marcus stood to give his speech. He held the microphone with that same confidence that drew me to him in the first place, and everyone hushed to listen. He talked about love. He talked about unity. He talked about family, but not once did he talk about me. Not once did he make me feel like his wife, his partner, his choice. He spoke about past, present, and future, as though they all belonged together, sitting under the same roof, clinking glasses and smiling. And my chest burned with the realization that he didn't just invite her. He invited her into us, into me, into a place where she never belonged. I stood up. My chair screeched against the floor, echoing through the hall, and all eyes turned to me. And I told him that he hadn't just invited her, he'd invited doubt, betrayal, and every reason for me to wonder if I was ever truly enough. The room gasped, people whispered, but I didn't care. For the first time all day, I wasn't pretending. I walked out into the rain, veil dragging behind me, and I felt free and broken all at once. The storm soaked my dress, lightning lit the sky, and thunder rolled like applause for my courage. And then he followed me. Marcus, drenched, desperate, begging me to come back. He said he loved me. He said none of it mattered, but love without respect is nothing. It's empty. And in that moment, I didn't look back. Not once. The rain poured down on me, cold and heavy, but it felt cleaner than the weight I had carried all day. Every step away from him was like peeling off another layer of lies, another broken promise, another piece of the dream I had built in my head. My heels sank into the wet ground. My dress clung to my skin, and I just kept walking. People were probably staring from the windows, whispering, wondering what kind of bride leaves her own reception. But I didn't care. For the first time in months, maybe years, I didn't care what anybody thought. I finally chose myself. When I finally made it back to the bridal suite, my girls were waiting. Tasha's eyes were wide, mascara smudged from her own tears, and she rushed to me like she wanted to fix everything. But some things can't be. Tasha squeezed my hand, and the other bridesmaids hovered like they were scared I might shatter completely. Maybe I already had. My mama came in not long after, her face tight, her eyes searching mine. She didn't ask a single question. She just wrapped her arms around me like she had when I was a little girl after a bad dream. Only this time, the nightmare was real. The hours after that blurred together. Guests leaving early, whispers flying like wildfire, my phone buzzing with messages I didn't want to read. My father found Marcus outside, still standing in the rain, clutching the ring I had given back. They said he looked like a man who had lost everything. And maybe he had. But so had I. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in the hotel bed alone, the sound of the storm still ringing in my ears. And I thought about every red flag I ignored. Every late night he said he was too tired to talk. Every time he got defensive when I asked about her. Every smile he gave me that didn't quite reach his eyes. I thought I was building a future, but I was just stacking bricks on a foundation that was already cracked. Days turned into weeks, and the story spread fast.